What's the number one thing that can wreck a blues performance? If you ask me, I think it's bad rhythm. See, rhythm is at the heart of everything that we do on the guitar. And if you don't work on it, you're killing your progress. And that's true even if you're into licks and solos. I ignored rhythm work and just dove headfirst into hot licks and fast riffs the second I started playing without thinking about rhythm. And it kind of showed when I started playing for people. Because without a good sense of timing, people just kind of get lost. But the cool thing is, because rhythm is so important and baked into everything we do, paying even just a little bit of attention to it really pays off big. Think about it. Simple ideas that groove, grab us. And in this lesson, I'm going to share a Delta blues style jam that will help you level up your rhythm skills. And we're going to do that with a couple of really cool tips. Here's the example. This is where we're going. Rhythm is underneath absolutely everything that we do on the guitar, and the best way to make sure that we understand the rhythm of the part that we're playing, and then therefore that we can play it in time, is to simply count along. It's simple, but it really works. Count out loud. This can be awkward at times, and it can be downright difficult, but when you get beyond just simple 4 counts, it becomes all the more important. Luckily, in blues, we count a lot just to 4, and we carve things up with a shuffle, with that swing count like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But here in this part, we're actually going to play with a straight 8th time where we're going to count nice and evenly, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's take a look at this main riff, and we'll see that time, that rhythm underneath. All right, let's focus on the fretting hand before we tackle the rhythmic piece, which is all about your picking hand, okay? So first off, I'm playing this with a capo at the 2nd fret. You can take the capo off and play this in E. It sounds really good that way as well, but just for a change, I'm capoing at the 2nd fret, and I'm going to refer to everything as if we were in the key of E. So we'll play this E shape. Yes, I know that this is an F sharp major, but we can think of it as an E shape here. And when I call out fret numbers, it's going to be relative to the capo. All right, so with that out of the way, what are we doing? Let's break this main riff down. I'm doing a bass, and then the top part of my E major chord, and then bass, now the 4th string, and the top part of an E7 chord, just by putting that little finger down on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. You can just loop that to get a little bit of practice. That's a move that we're going to do quite a lot throughout this example. But what we do at the end of the measure is a little bit different. We kind of break that with a little bass run. So when we get to the final beat, I'm going to play the 4th string and pull off. So that 4th string, 2nd fret, and then pull off to the open, and then land on the 2nd fret of the string below, in this case, the 5th fret. Right? We don't have to move around far to do that. We can hold our E chord shape to get that done. Now, the next time around, we do the same setup, right? But we're going to do something slightly different. Instead of doing that last brush up, we're going to jump up and slide into the 4th fret on the 3rd string, and then come back down to the 2nd fret, 3rd string, pull off like we did before, and then go down a string, 2nd fret. So very similar move to end us, just a string set higher than what we did before, which was this. All right, so, right, really cool classic blues sound. And then finally, we've got a measure of the Charlie Patton style brush ups there, where we're just strumming up through the top 3 strings, 3 in a row, then 2 in a row. All right, when we put all that together, this is the sound that we're going for. And we're going to come back and drop in the count. Count is really important. It's a great thing to do when you're learning a new piece or when you're really trying to study the rhythm of a particular part. This is a great way to practice rhythm. Count out loud. So if we're going to do that, we're going to count with an 8th note count. So we'll count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's try that as we play through the first measure and see what happens. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Notice there was one note there that happened while I wasn't counting. So that means we've got one that kind of slipped right in between. It was during that pull off. We get 2 notes there. The E, again, relative to the capo, pretend it's E, and the pull off, the D, right? The open 4th string. Right, that's happening twice as fast as every other note. So what we have there is a pair of 16th notes for that last little moment. So we would count that instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. When we get to 4, we're going to count 4 E and. So we're sticking another note in there, 4 E and. And we'll have this, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 E and. That continues with the variation that comes in the second measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then again we're just repeating bar 1, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then these brush ups, the Charlie Patton style brush ups, are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Right? So that one's just 8th notes all the way through that measure. All right, let's put this back together and count out loud. There really is no replacement for counting out loud. That is kind of a self-test of whether or not you know how this thing is put together rhythmically. And then it's all about putting the guitar to that rhythm. We want to make sure that when we're saying something that we want the notes to be played at that time. So in other words, if I'm doing that last measure of 1 and 2 and 3 and, I want to make sure that I'm timing my strokes with the count. The count should be constant, and that helps you sync this up, and it helps to really build some great internal timing. Let's listen to these 4 bars put together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now if we keep going, we're at the chord change, so we're going to change to our A chord. We're going to hop into the long A, and we're going to play the bass, and then this is kind of more in that style of those Charlie Patton brush ups here. So we're going to do bass and then brush ups with the index finger. And we're going to do it with this rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. With that little slide just to get us out of there. Again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Once you know how to count along, we need to embed that good sense of timing into everything that you do, but without necessarily counting out loud, because you don't want to count while you're playing all the time. You just want to play, but you want to play in time. And as fingerstyle blues players, the thumb has an incredibly important role when it comes to rhythm. A lot of times we're using the thumb as the timekeeper. So let's take a look at this next section and find out what we can do to sync the thumb up to the beat. Let's revisit the first few bars and focus on the thumb here as I count. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Notice that every time I played something with the thumb, it was when I was saying a number. This is very common because that is the beat, that's the pulse, right? When we strip away the riff that we've got here and just focus on the pulse, the beat of the music, it would be something like this. And what you can't see is almost always happening off screen. My foot is tapping right along with that thumb. So I trained my thumb to become a good timekeeper because my foot was kind of already a good timekeeper. And this is something that I bet you've got in you already. Even if you think you don't have a good sense of rhythm, when you're listening to music, your foot is probably tapping right along to the beat. If that's the case, then we can leverage that into good timing on the guitar, and specifically for us fingerstyle blues players, we can do that by syncing up the foot tap with the thumb. Okay, so a simple exercise for that is something like this. Just tap along and say the number 1, 2, 3, 4 and play 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a dead simple exercise, but doing that in that simple drill will help you get used to, one, the movement so that the thumb is moving with the foot, and it will start to sync it up and really bring your sense of timing forward, okay? That's what we're looking for. Now, if we go back through these bars, we can see that in action, but it's not just simply playing the bass string every single time. That's a style of music, dead bass. We love that. It sounds great, but often we're going to change things up rhythmically and not play every single time. Think about it like this. In this ending measure where we go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, the thumb is not playing every time we say a number. But we get there by training this. And then what happens is, like this, 1 and 2 and my thumb is ready to come back, 3 and 4 and. It's still coming back and doing its job on those beats. That's a moment of like resyncing so we don't get lost, and it kind of helps us find that beat. I hope that makes sense, but syncing up the thumb and your foot can be huge, even in parts where it's not as overt that the thumb is just playing every single beat, the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. We can do something like this, where it kind of takes a break there, right? Or even in this measure, it really takes a break, because I'm playing that lick with my index finger, right? And the thumb takes a break, but it knows it's coming back when the next foot tap comes around. This will help you really develop a good sense of internal timing. And when you're playing by yourself, you've always got that time clock on the floor. But once you've locked into the groove, you got to do something to treat the part with a little bit something special. That's where dynamics come in. And dynamics aren't about when you play rhythm necessarily, but they're about how you play. And the two just kind of go hand in hand. Did you notice in the beginning that the example, I played the first 12 bars kind of flat like this? But then on the repeat, that same part sounded like this. Right? There's more punch there. Those bass notes are pretty poppy, right? They're snappy and kind of aggressive. So once you've got the internal clock going, you've got your thumb and your foot linked up, and you're really dialed into the count, treat things with some dynamics to make your rhythm parts really stand out. And all I was doing there is playing the same part, but the thumb kind of curled under the string, pushed out a little bit, and you get that snap sound, right? And you can do the same thing on the top end by getting under the string and then plucking out. It's a different sound, but to me, once you've got the groove dialed in, these are the little things that you can do that make a really big impact. Premium members are going to have access to the extended cut tutorial for this lesson later on the week that this one goes live. If you're not already a member, you can join us at the link in the description. I'll see you inside my BGI. Until then, practice smart and play on.